Me and Rafa were in IKEA last night, and he was like, "Why is all the furniture white now?" And I was like, "Trump."
It's funny you say that. I have an IKEA bed, and you know what color it is?
Is it
It's
white?
white. Because I also have like bookshelf with like the cubbies.
Oh,
That's white. It gets dirty
so
really
easy.
fast. And so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to maybe like a dark wood eventually.
Yeah, like my desk, bookcase, table are various shades of dark wood.
Sound off in the comments what color your furniture is.
Yeah. It changed my mic. All right, I'm on the Yeti again.
I'm on that Yeti again.
On that Yeti. Yeah, we're doing a Yeti romance. Welcome back to Not My Fantasy. I'm Cullen sitting in a pool of ooze.
And I'm Hannah. I am in the canal in Baltimore,
Yeah.
seconds before the end of this film, where Eliza, spoiler alert, becomes a sea creature.
The
She becomes
creature,
a
yes.
mermaid, basically.
Yeah. Welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we talk about fantasy films and the lore that inspired them. I'm drinking from a mushroom mug with a little frog on it.
Cute. You
Yeah,
have an amphibian.
I have an
How
amphibian.
you planned it. You
I
planned
did.
this.
And I'm wearing like I used to have a lot more blue in my wardrobe, and this is like the one blue shirt I could find. It's like a workout shirt.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about Shape of Water from 2017. We're in Supernatural Romance month.
Week
Um,
3.
week three, we're fulfilling our New Year's resolution because, especially when we are doing a podcast and if you do like a month where it's like every weekend, it can be really hard to like book guests. People get busy, stuff's going on. And we're like, you know what? Sometimes we might just solo it up.
Duo it
Cullen and
up.
Hannah. Yeah.
I'll just leave the call. It's fine.
Yeah, just like exit the Zoom call. I'm talking about Shape of Water. Uh, yeah, this is a movie that in some ways was very big in a moment, and I had to type the P to get SHA, Shape of Water wasn't coming up. I had to get to the P. And so I'm like,
Wow.
what is this movie's long-lasting legacy? Like, has it
And
made a long-term impact?
it's hard to, it's not on streaming
Yeah,
or like part of your subscription anywhere.
yeah,
So we had to purchase this film. We rented it. So, I mean, yeah, this, so I have seen this movie. I saw it in theaters with a group of our friends from grad school. That was a fun experience. And I agree. It was very much like a film that had a big moment. Um, was there like Oscars buzz around
yes.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
So
to
it
that.
was it was very much like a moment in time. And then yeah, like it kind of falls off because obviously it's not on streaming. But I feel like that's a lot of Guillermo del Toro films. He has like big moment pieces that don't necessarily last in like the wider consciousness.
Yeah,
Which I think is kind of wonderful because you kind of be like, oh my God, I forgot this movie existed. And you watch it
yeah.
and you're like, wonderful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not see this when it came out. And I remember our friend Ben Film TV. So Ben has a last name and I do know it. But when I was putting in his number, when we had a class together and we're in the basement of some bar at like some sportsy whatever thing. It was like some opening of the semester mixer. Do you remember this event?
Mm, maybe
And
not.
I had been like, okay, like these two people, like they sat close to us in film class. Like I think they want to be friends. I was talking to him, and I was like, "What's your?" Putting his number in because like we should be friends. And I was like, "What's your last name?" And he's like, "Just put your last name. I'm only interested in your last name." And I just I'm like, I'm just gonna put film
So Ben,
TV. Yeah, he thought the movie was not subtle, and it was like too on the nose. Is that entirely wrong? No.
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 Does that detract from the film? I don't think so.
I have an interesting like because I definitely like I liked it. I was very and I'll talk about it. I was very like engaged, but I found yeah, it could be more subtle at times, but this is the 2010s. Not a decade of subtlety, not a century of subtlety so far.
Yeah.
Uh and I felt so I felt very invested. But I felt like I was too stressed for it to be a romance.
This movie was too stressful for you? You
Yes.
weren't just stressed by the stuff we were talking about before we hit record.
Yeah, no, not just the fact that my world is spiritually, literally, figuratively on fire, but the in this watery space, was not able to feel a level of relaxation that I think is essential in a romance to
Mm.
breathe with those characters. I just felt like I was drowning. No, it's just
Wow.
there's just there was a leaning on stakes and pacing that is very 2010s. Very
Mm.
like, let's keep this movie going. Let's make sure people don't get bored and think it's a schmutzy romance. There's like danger. But it felt like
Hmm.
that kept me from really feeling the feelings I could. So while I was still very much liked the movie and like thought it was a good movie, I think to me that's why it was like, wow, look at this movie that pulls in all these themes. Like, what a great movie. And then like back the cultural consciousness.
Yeah.
Or it's just too freaky for some people. Maybe that could be
I
the more realistic answer. But that's what my philosophical thought.
yeah, this movie's pretty freaky. And the freakiness starts pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I just want to like quickly throw out there before we even get into the plot, before we even get into the background of this film, I just need to say I did see probably one of the craziest CC captions I have ever seen.
What was it?
This is the beginning of the film. She's in her first routine. She's taking a bath. She, starts masturbating, right? Normal thing to do. That's not the freaky part. The freaky part is the CC came up in parentheses, masturbation or masturbating. And I went,
I did you remember that?
love it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was wild.
Yeah, that was. Uh so it was this 2017 dark fantasy, romantic dark fantasy period piece, directed and produced by my father, Guillermo Del Toro. I'm a
Yes.
nepo baby. If you forgot, he called me son once, so I'm legally his child.
I almost forgot about that
Yeah,
reference. Good callback.
yeah, thanks. He co-wrote the screenplay with Vanessa Taylor. It stars Sally Hawkins as Alyssa Esposito, Michael Shannon as Richard Strickland, Richard Jenkins as Giles, Doug Jones as they call him the amphibian man, but the creature, the asset. Michael Stuhlbarg as Robert Hofstetter slash Dmitry Mosenkov, Octavia Spencer as Zelda Delilah Fuller, Nick Searcy as the General, and David Hewlett as Fleming. I thought for whatever reason, on my mind made up discourse that Sally Hawkins was a deaf actress. That is not
Oh,
true.
no.
So I thought I remember people being like, wow, it's great to see a deaf actress have her day. Plot twist, no, that isn't what happened. And I'm sure there's discourse about that. I did see discourse saying that this movie seems to imply that disabled people need to leave society or can only be loved by a strange creature. I think that's a strange interpretation to take from the movie, but I could see being like, why couldn't a hard of hearing actress have her moment?
Well,
Um,
also the point is that this character isn't hard of hearing at all. It's that
She's
she's
mute.
a mute, and
Yeah.
it's because of a physical injury that she had as a
Yeah.
child, or I guess as an infant.
Yeah, they like cut her voice box out and they left these gill-like scars.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Nudge, nudge. Uh, the film was nominated for 13 awards at the 90th Academy Awards, winning four. And it received numerous accolades. It was his second fantasy film to win Best Picture after Lord of the Rings: Return of the King,
Mm.
2003. So our second Best Picture winner on the pod.
This one, Best Picture?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, which I remember.
I don't remember that. Hmm.
Let me pull up the tab. I kept just the
I'm
tab. There's a
curious what else it would have been nominated against.
Well, I
So,
think it's really
what was this,
important that
2016,
2017,
2017?
despite all its nominations, uh, it received no Teen Choice Award nominations. And I think
Mm,
that's a
well, I
really,
don't really think it's a teen movie.
I think that must have been pretty frustrating for Guillermo. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
he not hitting that goal, the ultimate filmmaker's goal of a Teen Choice Award nominee.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
here's my question. Was Hellboy ever nominated or win a Teen Choice Award? Because he also did those films. The
oh
ones
yeah,
back in the early 2000s,
I
not
saw
the
those,
one
I
with David
think.
Harbour. Love those movies
Yeah, I remember
so
liking them.
much.
So it was nominated for at the Academy Awards, Best Picture one, Best Director one, nominated for Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing. It won for Best Original Score and Best Production Design, and nominated for Best Sound Editing and Sound Mixing.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. I mean, there's so many elements of this film that are just so good, like
Yeah.
sound design, I mean, the whole production design, like it's a gorgeous film.
And it has this watery palette. Yeah. Um, so very well made film. It grossed 63.9 million and 130 in the US and Canada. And then it had an international growth for a total gross of 195.2 million. So
Nice.
did pretty well. Let's talk lore. So I got a bunch of books in the library, right? I didn't get any about sea creatures, but then I realized as I was reading some of those books, anyone can write a book. I'm trying to up my research game, but then I'm reading things and I'm like, what is this person talking about? Then I look at their credentials, then I'm like,
Anyone can write a book. Yeah.
anyone can write a book. Yeah. Research trying to it's hard. So especially when you hit something, this I had a similar the story I was trying to reference, I ran into a similar situation as I did in Our Legend of Mulan, where I knew certain things, but like I couldn't find some things in English
Mm.
or like couldn't find them all like conveniently sourced in like a nice way. Like Pitt EDU did not have this one for me, which is a website I use a lot. It just has a lot of like your standard fairy tales and like straightforward format. Uh
University of Pittsburgh, we see you. Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you. Thank you for carrying this pod. Now the story I was referencing is because I was like, you know what, we're covering a lot of big ground. We're just gonna reference one story, you know. Agneta and the Merman, sometimes called Agnes Agenta. You know, this is a Scandinavian ballad. And so
Mm.
I couldn't find a super good like link, like academic, like here are all the main versions. I could listen to the ballad in Danish, you know, and I could like read different things. Um, but you know, it was hard to find a good source. But this is I kind of compiled some things, and so I'll still have some links for you. But um, you know, when you're not beating the beast, sometimes you don't get the same level.
Yeah.
Uh, so this was a post, sometimes considered a post-medieval or pre-medieval Scandinavian folk ballad. So it's hard because again, before the printing press, a lot of stuff wasn't written down. So there's debate as to when it came from, but it was classified as a ballad of the supernatural. And there was a play version by famous bisexual disaster, Hans Christian Andersen, that closed after two performances.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah. Um,
too
but it's the
freaky. Too
too
freaky for
freaky.
female.
Yeah, but it is a Scandinavian, like found in like Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, it's like the IKEA of ballads. And
A
actually
lot of white furniture.
actually it's more Danish than Swedish, so that's where I think it'd be unfair to call it the IKEA is Swedish, so I think it'd be unfair to
Yeah.
call it the IKEA of ballads, but you could call it the Danish of ballads, like a Danish that you eat. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You don't want a
So
Danish.
you make a statement and then immediately retract it.
Yes, me. Uh, yeah,
Ooh, Danishes sound really good.
I
Okay,
know. I'm
continue.
like, oh, I want a Danish right now. Like, I just leave the call, drive, go get a Danish, come back. I do that record in the
You
car. I'll
record in the
get it.
car.
I'm in Ralph's buying a Danish. Uh, so Agnes, Agneta, she's born by the sea in some versions. Sometimes she just likes the sea. She's just a lady. She's a girl. She's picking flowers. She's chilling by the sea. A merman comes out, seduces her, glistening.
Mm,
He's like, "Come live with me under the sea, darling. It's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me."
hmm
Mm-hmm. And so she lives in the sea with him in his underwater palace. Has 2 to 7 children.
Two to
Uh,
seven
2 to 7,
children.
depending on the version. But so she's happy, but one day she hears the church bells and she longs for the surface. As why am I losing her name? As Tracy Turnblad would say, I can hear the bells.
Ooh, Baltimore reference. Look at you.
Baltimore reference. Yeah. Good morning. And so it's kind of like a Being the Beast where he's like, you can go, but come back after one day, or don't go into the church. There's always some kind of like stipulation. And so a common version is she arrives, it's midnight, she goes in, was her dad's funeral, and her mother is there mourning. Her dad died of heartbreak after not being able to find her, because it turns out time passes differently. Classic fairyland versus human timelines, Narnia core. And she then sees behind her mother an inscription of her mother's grave. She's talking her mom's a ghost. Her mom's been dead and gone for
Whoa.
too long. And in some of these tragic versions, she then dies by the sea,
Mm,
unable to find salvation. In a Swedish version, it's more like she's a little kidnapped. And when she gets to the church, the merman, because of God, isn't allowed to enter. He pleads for her to return, but she doesn't. And a common detail given is that the statues in the church, whenever Agenta or the merman come in, they like turn away to not look at them.
mm,
God can't see you. Uh,
interesting.
or at least his posse can't. Um, but that's a big thing in Hunchback of Notre Dame. You can never run from or hide what you've done from the eyes of Notre Dame, unless you're a merman. Asterisk. Yeah. 'Cause Notre Dame won't look at you. In another version, she's like, let me wait till the sermon is done. Let me wait till the priest is done talking. And then she's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay with my mom. She's alive in this version, and I'm done. And he's like, what about your babies? What about your little one that's just in the cradle? And she's like, I don't give a fuck. Like literally, she's like, I don't care for any of them. Whatever. Uh,
Wow.
and he goes back to the sea, and you can hear his wailing in the waves in the storm.
Mm,
And this is a reverse of common mermaid Selkie stories, where like a man will like magically kind of kidnap a sea creature and make her be his wife. They have kids, everything seems happy, but this is the man's POV, so who knows? She gets the her seal skin or whatever, and she dips. She's out into the ocean. So that's it's like plot twists. You know, I think it's relevant to discuss. Maybe a lot of women weren't happy in their marriages back in the day when they had no rights and would take the opportunity to leave, even though they had kids. And it comes up in folklore enough that you're like, there were some people
hmm.
feeling this kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's also like a Christian thing. Like she's in her tryst with the merman. She's outside of God's kingdom. She's under
Purview,
the sea
yeah.
purview, and now she's back. She can hear the bells. She's back in Holy Land. She doesn't want anything to do with her foreigner children, which ties into something I didn't think I'd have to look up, and I only briefly kind of reread the Bible story, Samson and Delilah,
Oh,
which was
yes.
often interpreted as why you should not collude sexually with foreigners
Right.
because they'll betray you
Hmm.
for money. Famously, no one of your ethnicity can betray you for money. That's just the rules.
Those are the rules, you
Yeah.
know.
Please know that we are joking. It is very common. Judas from the Lady Gaga song, similar
Judith,
ethnicity to
no.
Jesus. Yeah, he betrayed
Brought you
Brutus,
murder.
murder, Brutus, Cassius, same ethnicity as Caesar.
Et tu, Brute?
Lancelot was French and he did sleep with Arthur's wife,
Lancelot.
but Mordred was Arthur's bastard son who betrayed him. They're your own flesh and blood.
Damn. Sometimes
Joseph and
it be
his
your
bro
own flesh and blood.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be Joseph's
Joseph and his
brothers,
brother?
Belle's
Whoa.
sisters,
Yeah.
Cinderella's dad,
Damn.
some versions of Snow White. It's her mom.
Damn.
So sorry to Samson and Delilah and the people who interpret it that way, but anyone can betray you. Sorry.
Even yourself.
Even yourself.
Insert that meme.
Yeah,
Can't trust anybody, not even myself.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah, but so Samson and Delilah, basically what they say in the movie, right? He is in love with her. The Philistines pay her money to find his weakness. It happens 3 times, so this is giving very folk story. And he keeps giving her fake weaknesses until she's like, if you love me, you'd give me your real weakness.
Hmm.
And then he
He's like,
does.
it's my hair, my beautiful hair.
And then she tied him to a kitchen chair.
Pinky.
Yeah. Uh, she cut his the and did his hair, the coals of broken home. I couldn't remember the lyrics. Um, do you know the? Oh, I need to listen to that song. The Regina Spektor song, Samson,
No.
because it's from Delilah's point of view, but it's like very loving.
Interesting.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I don't think it's a hundo P about Bible Samson. It's just like playing on those themes. But
Mm.
love it, love her. Now I need to listen to that song so bad. I need to eat a Danish while listening to that song. And yeah, so it's a story. It can be interpreted a variety of ways, I guess. I never really fucked with Samson as a kid. I never was like, yeah, that's my.
You know what I got from it when I was a kid? And I think that's what potentially this movie is also uh, touching on is that women can't be trusted. Women will just
Mm,
exploit your weakness and fuck you
yeah,
up, you know? So that's what I got from it when I was a wee child hearing that story in
yeah.
church. Did
Can't
that
trust
impact
women.
me? You know, the jury's still out on that one.
Yeah, there are a lot of the Jezebel, the whatever.
Hmm.
And again, we talked about this in Wish. Remember God's ex-wife? And they were trying to be like the queen of heaven, whatever. We don't like her now. We are monotheists.
Right.
Here's an evil slutty queen who loves her and she gets eaten by dogs, bitch. Like I'm not saying there was never a couple named Samson and Delilah. Like I'm not. It's just, stories get translated, they get interpreted, they move on. It's like,
Hmm.
do I think there was a girl named Cinderella who rode on a pumpkin? Most likely no. Do I
No,
think
because
there
her
was
name
a
was Ella.
Yeah. Do I think there was a cave woman whose family sucked and then she showed up at a party in a killer fit and got to marry someone hot and everyone was like, good for her. Love her. Her family sucked. Great. So happy for her. And then that evolved over centuries. Yeah. I do think
That
that.
happened. And you know
That's
what? We're
my
still rooting for that cave woman.
we're still centuries from now, and
Millennia.
millennia. Yeah. Let's talk about this movie that I watched last night and I just finished watching. Uh, Water. Um,
The shape of it.
Shape of It. We kind of open underwater. It's like an intro, and we meet Eliza, who is she's a routine queen. She
She spends a
boils.
lot of money on eggs.
Yes, she boils eggs. She masturbates in a set time while those eggs boil. She shines her shoes. It's
And
a
honestly,
routine.
it takes what, 8 to 10 minutes to get a hard-boiled egg? And she's getting it done in that much time. I mean, that is a routine.
Yeah. And I think the water,
Helps. It
yes.
keeps you warm.
And it's later described that she was found near the water, like a certain
Yes,
Agneta,
exactly. Yeah,
you
as soon as
know?
you said that, I was like, ooh,
Yeah. Um, and so she has a bestie. She has a gay bestie.
mm-hmm,
His name is Giles. Uh, and
mm-hmm.
he be an illustrator. He loves old movies, doesn't like to watch current events. He has cats.
Yeah.
Um,
At this point, I think he has like 3 cats. One of them is
mhm.
named Pandora.
Yeah, I have opinions about the cats and what
Oh,
I consider forgivable on screen.
yeah, same.
Yeah. Uh, I think the dog, of all the cabals that need to be taken down, I think the pro dog cabal, as someone who likes dogs, the pro dog anti cat, they have so much power in
Yes.
Hollywood, in the industries. It's because people want sycophantic adoration.
They don't understand cats. They don't
Yeah.
understand how you earn their love and affection and their trust.
Especially because I don't think it's even that hard,
It's
depending on the
not.
cat.
It's actually very easy.
Very easy. Cats are so cute. So Gatita, we were just watching her initially, and she was like on the bed, and I came in with little pieces of chicken, put them in front of her, and sat on the other side of the bed, not touching her. And now every morning she wants to cuddle, she wants kisses, she's crawling up on me, she always wants to play. She is a very affectionate cat. Not all cats are that affectionate, but all it
Oh yeah,
took was me like giving her her space, her time, learning how she likes to play, learning and
it's
she
so
literally
funny.
will sleep with me like a teddy bear.
Yep. Edgar is a slut. He he's such a dog in that way.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Um
Katita can be. It's like it depends on her mood, depends on the vibe of the person.
I mean,
She greets
literally
us at the door. Usually
when we
whenever
went
she,
to
yeah.
meet him, he was basically like in my lap in the first second. And when we took him home, he was just all over us. It
Yeah.
didn't matter. He's just a little slut.
Yeah. She just wants love. Like you hug her, you
Yeah.
pick her up, she's purring. She just wants to know that she's valued and loved. Now, there are times where she's not in the mood, when she's feeling spicy.
Hmm.
And I think that's the thing is I think people like that dogs are just always down for whatever you want. And
Yeah.
cats, even though they're mostly down, where sometimes they're just like, I'm not feeling it right now. And
Yeah,
all
like
you have
please
to
don't rub my
do,
belly
yeah,
right
all you do
now.
is just leave them alone because they want to
Yep,
be left alone. You know,
exactly.
it's just
It's about boundaries.
boundaries. And I know
Ooh,
we all sometimes pick up our cats when they don't want to be picked up. It's like I'm not trying to
all
get
the
on a high fucking
time.
horse, but like, I just think we wouldn't let a protagonist in a romantic story eat a dog.
Okay, you're really showing your hand now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we would let them eat a
that's
cat
true.
and forgive it. And I'm like,
That's
I understood the
that's
logic, but why?
but but why?
Yeah. I could, you can, if you've shown the cat be an asshole, like in Cinderella, I'm like, kill that fucking cat. Oh my God. Like, Cinderella was doing her best early
Yes.
on, lose her as good qualities. At the end of that movie, she's like, fucking kill that cat.
Yeah,
He's
but
trying to get in the way of my freedom.
I mean, we'll talk about it, but that cat was defending itself. So,
Yeah. So,
anyway,
okay. So she has a bestie. She works at a lab. She's a janitorial worker.
hmm,
She has a best friend, Zelda. They've worked together, we later, for over 10 years.
yeah,
And so Zelda loves her because she can talk shit about her husband, whatever, you know. And they're just like, but it's funny because you don't get the vibe that she's just talking at her as much as she is just like venting. You do get the vibe that like Eliza enjoys having these
she's a
conversations with Zelda.
because she is having a conversation. She's
Yeah,
reacting to what Zelda says, and then Zelda is reacting to that. Like
yeah.
it's not like she's yapping at her. It's like they are talking. It's
And
girl talk.
Zelda always holds her space in line for her. 'Cause she's always running
Love
late.
it.
And so
Yeah.
they're just like they're
And
besties.
frickin' Yolanda's complaining, and she's like, I'm gonna get written up. And Zelda's like, yeah, okay, Yolanda.
Yeah. Zelda's
The
like,
Zelda
wow.
Yolanda beef, I'm living for it.
Yeah. Are you Team Zelda, Team Yolanda?
Who's a
Uh
girl's girl now, Cullen?
yeah.
I'm pitting women against each other.
Uh and she is working in this lab and she sees them carting in like a bionicle looking egg toy shaped thingamajig.
A
And
new
there's
specimen.
a new specimen, there's a creature inside.
Hmm.
And she's intrigued. And then later they see this guy that comes in with the creature and is now in charge of the security, Strickland.
Hmm.
Strict is in his name. He's like peeing and talking while he's peeing and only washes his hands before.
Which I think he washed his hands to get the blood off
Yeah,
because there was blood
on
on
his
the
electric
sink.
cattle prodder.
Yep. And so I think he washed his hands, and I don't think he ever washes his hands after he uses the bathroom. I would also like to note that in the future, he does put his hand that does lose some fingers on his wife's mouth. Now knowing that, plus the fact that he probably never washes his hands. Ooh. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a piece of work.
And they were said, if this was the 50s movie, he would be a hero. And I do want to acknowledge that they already said that about Gaston and Beating the Beast. So sorry, been done. And I have thoughts about Strickland. Um, the
Yeah.
opening one is that if we're supposed to do man versus monster, why isn't he hot or charming at all? Why, like, he's so instantly like, oh, this guy
Right.
sucks, which is fine. Like in Beauty and the Beast, right? It is an animated movie for children and families, love it, but it is not supposed to be super subtle. Um,
But I don't necessarily think this guy is supposed to be a romantic competitor
yeah,
because she's never going to return that man's affection.
yes,
She, as in Eliza.
I,
Also, go ahead.
I think he's just so instantly you're like, yeah, that's the bad guy. And he's reads as gross, annoying, all the racist, all these things so quickly. So the whole like who's the monster, who is the man thing is like, well, yeah, obviously we know how this is going. And that's can be fine, but he
Yeah.
suffers from Ken syndrome where he takes too much time in the narrative to
Yes, I
explain
agree.
to explain why he is the way he is. And I'm like, well, if he's gonna be this unsubtle caricature, not caricature, because there are definitely people like that, like this
Yeah.
unsubtle like asshole, then you don't need to explain it to me
I
because I got it.
think that so we start the movie with like Giles narrating, and he says like this is basically the story of two people who fall in love
Like a
and the
prince and a
monster
princess and the monster who tries to destroy it all.
who tried to destroy it. And so like I don't know if we're really supposed to be trying to read Strickland as anything but he is a monster from the get-go. And I
Yeah,
think that like I think we're just supposed to, I don't know, I guess revel in the fact that like he sucks and we can't wait to see him get his comeuppance. Um, but I think this is that on the noseness that our friend Ben potentially
yeah.
was talking about some of it. Um, I I also think like this there's a lot in this movie that's really heightened
Yeah.
that like I think that like a lot of these characters are, because I also think Zelda is a little heightened as a
Yeah.
character, especially like the role that she's playing is like the helpful black woman,
Yeah.
like the helpful black woman who is also like motherly and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like I think there's a lot of caricaturizing going on in general.
Yeah, I think that's fine because it's a fair, well, I don't know. I want to say
Well,
yes, mammy archetype is fine. I don't want to like come out and say that. But
but
like,
because it's a fairy tale, we're expecting this kind of tone.
yeah, I think so there's a point where it works. I think I again the thing with Strickland is if you're gonna try and be like who's the monster, who is the man, why is it so obvious? And I think that again that could be fine, but then why are we spending so much time explaining it?
Well, I also think that we very obviously know he's the monster, but later on in the movie, there's that whole thing of like, you know, are we human by letting this creature be murdered?
Yeah.
So I think it's like this is the obvious monster, but like, do we also become monsters?
Yeah, is Giles
Is more
calling himself a monster because he almost let the creature die?
right. So
Yeah, layers, onion, Shrek.
yeah, I do think that Strickland is a little much,
I think it's
but
it's
I
like he's much and he takes narrative time. I think if he was gonna be
yes.
much, there's like 5 or 6 scenes that we didn't need. Because I'm like, yeah, I got that guy. Okay, clocked him.
Yeah, the stuff with his like family life, um, which I don't even really want to talk about at length, but just like I don't get much out of that except that like gross,
Yeah, I
you know.
think the way I kind of want to talk about this movie is because it's kind of like it's not super like plot heavy, linear. I think we can kind of talk about like the characters, kind of like so if we go like
Yeah.
with what's going on with Strickland, we're here. Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
Shape of Water. Um, he is like this military guy. He is like a classic 1950s asshole. He says a bunch of racist things, especially to Zelda. He's like, "Who do you think we're made in like we're made in the Lord's image? The Lord looks like me. Well, or like you and me. Well, more like me. It's
Which
like
is yeah, it's crazy.
he always says
Um,
words and asks if Zelda knows them.
yeah. Um, he's a monster. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He has a beautiful wife and kids in a beautiful suburban home who he doesn't give a shit about.
Yeah. Also, he gets his fingers bitten off
Yeah, by this monster he's
by this
torturing.
monster that he is torturing. He
Yeah,
was actually the one that went down to, I think they said somewhere in South America, to pull him out of the rivers or
yeah,
the waters down there and bring him to Baltimore, Maryland, to be studied. For basically the gist is they're trying to figure out how he can rapidly switch between the two different breathing systems he
yeah,
has in his body because America wants, we're in the space race, Cold War with Russia. We're trying to send a man into space.
yeah. And we never do.
And we never did.
We
We
never
didn't go to
do.
the moon.
Yeah. Uh,
It was just a set. Prove me
so
wrong.
he gets his fingers bitten off. He wants his wife to shut up, basically. And so he fetishizes the fact that Eliza is mute.
She's quiet.
She's
Yeah.
quiet. And so he
He
wants
thinks about Eliza while he's having sex with his wife and puts his hand his hand with the fingers that were sewn on and they don't know if they're going to
and they're
take.
bleeding.
Yep. And they're bleeding.
She's like
Yes.
they're bleeding and he
And he says like I don't care. And that's assault. So,
yeah. And his kids though at one point are watching what episode of our podcast am I about to reference?
oh, what were they watching?
The Many Loves of like Dobie, whatever, the show that
Yes,
inspired the Scooby Gang, specifically that guy that we see on screen, is the guy that inspired Shaggy
Shaggy.
Maynard.
Yes.
Yeah. Because if you look
Nice.
at that and you're like, that guy looks like Shaggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island episode. Wow. Um,
But yeah,
so
so
yeah.
Strickland's awful.
Yeah. He gets a Cadillac at one point and then it gets damaged. So he's like, and we get this thing where he's like, if you have one fuck up, then like do you not matter? And the general's like, yeah, then you're just
He's
a piece of shit forever. You
he's
cease to exist.
obsessed. Yes, he's obsessed with being someone who ushers America into the future, right?
Yeah.
He is a security guy at the scientific facility that is studying a specimen to put a man in space, to basically push America into the future. His
Mhm.
son at their school, they're doing a time capsule, and he's like, "Do you think we'll have jetpacks in the future, Dad?" And he's like, "You better believe it, son," except he doesn't have that much inflection or care for his son at all. But he's basically like, like very forward thinking. The Cadillac thing was crazy because looking at the way that people used to sell cars, it was very scripted. He's that guy, that salesman has said this to a million people.
Yeah.
Basically like, you're the man of the future. Every 4 and 5 successful men have this car. And so that's he gets in the car and he buys that caddy. Um, which it's a pretty sweet ride. Um,
Very Don't Worry, Darling core.
yes, haven't seen that movie. Probably never will. Um, but yeah, so like he's obsessed with himself being a part of ushering America into the future. Um, Progress for progress sake. Um,
But not progressive.
but not progressive. Yes, very key there. Um, so yeah, that's sort of what motivates him. And then yes, when he does this big fuck up, which is letting someone he thinks is an elite strike team
Yeah.
getting away with the specimen, taking the specimen from the lab somewhere else. The general is basically like, you fucked up so bad that you are going to be unborn. You are going to be the reason why America goes back. Um,
And so
so
he
it's
takes a bunch of
it again. It's not
pills.
subtle, and
Yeah.
I think it's like trying to say that like an obsession with progress for progress sake, like it's like a futile endeavor. It'll drive you insane kind of thing.
Yeah. And but again, for this man who at one point is like basically like sexually harassing Eliza,
Oh,
he's like, I don't
does
mind how
not
you, not basically,
he
like is.
literally does.
He's like, oh, I don't mind that. I like it.
I
It,
like your scars. I like that you're quiet. And then
I
he
think I can
asks
make
her,
you
he's like,
squawk.
do you squawk? He's like, it's not pretty, some mute squawk. And then, yeah, he's like touching her and he says, I can make you, and it's disgusting and not subtle. And again, that's why I don't think we're ever supposed to be questioning whether or not he is a monster. I think it is supposed to represent that, like,
The monstrosity of normativity.
the monstrosity of progress for progress sake. Just,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that all tracks for me. But again, like all the stuff we get with his family, all this stuff, I'm like, I got this man from scene one. I don't need this
we
because,
don't need more. Yeah,
yeah, because I think that's taking narrative time away from our central romance. It's building
it is.
stakes and threat, but the romance falls a little flat for me. Not totally flat. Like, I still buy it, but like, does
But a
not get the
lot of
attention it deserves.
because of those extra scenes, it does become montage,
Yeah.
which
And
isn't
it,
great.
and it becomes
So,
much more at times, his movie. And I'm
yeah,
like, I bought our antagonist, his worldview. He thinks that thing's a monster. He's a normative 50s guy. Do I need his home life? Do I need that he doesn't give a
yeah,
shit about his son? It's supposed to be that like he has everything he wants, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Again, I felt the way about the I'm Just Ken song. I know a lot of people loved it. I was like, I got Ken from moment one. I think America Ferrera and Barbie are like going through some like revelation, transforming from plastic to woman, whatever. And I don't get to watch it because I have to watch him sing about how hard it is to be hot, but like just left to do your own thing. Like, cry me a fucking river and like show me the real plot. Show me what I
Yeah,
came here for.
I can't even get into Barbie
Yeah.
because you and I have shared controversial opinions.
Yeah. Um, okay. So, but what's
So
going on with
that's
that main plot?
yeah, I was like, that's him. Let's get on to something better.
Yeah. So, Eliza, she sees the monster. She sees his fingers, the guy at Strickland's fingers. She
Yeah.
sees the creature being kind of tortured and being told it's a monster, don't talk with it. And she's like,
But maybe I should do those things. Maybe I
yeah.
should talk to it.
So she gives an egg to the creature.
Would you like an egg in this trying time? Hannah, insert that meme from It's Always Sunny.
Uh, and then she's like showing him this is what egg is. She starts,
Oh yeah, she signs throughout the
yeah.
film and it's like that's how she like speaks. Yeah, so she like basically teaches him sign language.
And so she shows him kindness. And so he's pretty quick to be like, oh, you're nice to me. Okay. You
I'll be
know,
nice to you. Yeah.
yeah, she plays music and he likes the music. He likes to listen to the music. At one point, they're even dancing together. He's in the
Hmm.
tube. She's with the mop.
Yeah,
Because she loves to watch like old musicals with her friend Giles, got
Giles.
Giles, and she's the only reason Giles remembers to eat, you know.
Uh-huh.
So we'll get into his plot a little later, but that's kind of what's going on with her, and she's sneaking off, and then she hears the general, whatever, they come in and they're like, it's too much to study. We should just like kill it and take it apart, see what's up. And the scientist, Bob, is like,
Bob in quotes.
yeah, he's like, no, like we need to, this is like a beautiful, rare creature that we need to understand.
Yeah, because he has been observing Eliza
Yeah. And seeing
uh
it dance.
communicating
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh no, no, we need to learn more."
Yeah.
Um
There's
he's
references.
obsessed with learning.
Yeah. And there's references to, oh, the primitive Amazonians, they left offerings in it or whatever, but they tried to stop the
They
oil
thought it
riggers
yeah,
with
because they thought he
arrows.
was a
Oh,
god.
God. And it's like,
Yeah.
or they were just like, oh, this creature is nice when we're nice to it.
Or, I mean, we do find out that the creature does have some sort of powers. So
Yeah.
maybe they had a symbiotic, respectful, helpful relationship where
Yeah.
they would give him offerings and he would help them in return.
Yeah.
Kindness. Sharing
So
is caring.
sharing is caring. And So, and so that guy, Bob, what his deal is, he's Dmitri, he's a Soviet spy. He has to
Yes.
go sit on a block and listen to and get taken to this same Russian restaurant every time, talk about how they're going to take the asset, whatever, figure out how to get it for the Soviets. He tells them it can speak, it can communicate, and they're like,
Eh.
kill it.
Yeah. Because basically, like, when the Americans decide they're going to kill it, they're like, or they're going to kill it to cut it open
Yeah,
to study it that way. They're like, no, 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 kill it,
get rid of
like
the body.
just get rid of the body. Yeah,
Because to them, like, it doesn't matter that we learn, it matters that the Americans don't learn.
yeah.
Um, so that's what's going on there. And if you notice, we did talk about Eliza and her connection with this monster, but there seems to be a lot of things going on. And then, so speaking of things going on, her bestie, he loves going to this pie shop. It's like the curse of Tantalus. He can look, but he can't touch.
One of the
And
first franchises in America, this
yeah,
shitty pie shop.
and he has a crush on this.
I think it's the owner, maybe.
Yeah, the pie boy, the pie busker.
The
Uh,
pie busker.
and they chat, and the guy's just friendly, and he's like, oh, he says come back, and he always orders key lime pie, and it tastes terrible. His
It
fridge is full of
looks
it.
disgusting. I
Yeah.
hate key lime pie, and that one just looks terrible.
Yeah. Eliza can barely eat it. He's like, don't spit it out.
But he continues to get it because he has a fridge full
Yeah.
of partially eaten slices of key lime pie.
And he is selling, he's an artist. He's trying to make a Jello ad, and his seemingly ex-lover works at the agency and is
Hmm.
trying to, got him fired and is now trying to get him work sometimes. But people want to use pictures, but he's like, no, ads. Okay, now we need green Jello. The family needs to look happier.
He's sort of like um he's right at the cusp of, the end of Mad Men, I guess.
Yeah.
The show. But yeah, I got the gist that this guy was just trying to keep him as a hanger on in
Yeah.
case. I don't think they actually wanted the Jello to be red. Also, he has one of like the funniest lines. The guy, he's like, "What do you mean he needs to be happier? This man looks like he's just discovered the missionary position." Terrific.
Yeah. And he's, shh, don't, you can't say that, you know. Um, and so later when Eliza is like, they're gonna kill this monster, we gotta get out of here. We gotta save the creature. He's like, I can't do that. That's illegal. And he goes to deliver the art to his friend. And we'll get into the more of that conversation. But I just like I just kind of want to do like a wrap on his plot. Because
Yeah.
sometimes he's also balding, likes to wear a toupee. That'll come up later. Um, and then so he goes to the his ex-lover to give him the art, and he's like, "Yeah, now's not a good time." He's like, "When would be a good time for you?" And it's like, never.
Never.
And then he goes to talk to the pie shop guy, and he's like, "Yeah, that's great. I serve people pie. I hear about their feelings. I love getting to know you." And he touches his hand. He's like, "I love to get to know you more too." And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, oh, oh." And then this black couple comes in, and the guy is instantly racist to them. You
And
know?
this is right after, Eliza's basically said, we're being monsters if we don't help him, if we
Yeah,
don't stand up to this. And he has a small moment of standing up for these people, even though they get incredibly rudely bussed out of there
yeah.
and by this owner, I guess.
And he's like, "You
And
can't talk to them like that."
yeah, and he's like, get the fuck out of my restaurant.
Yeah, this is a family restaurant.
And then he's like, you know what? Your pie sucks.
Yeah,
I don't think he says that, but he does wipe his tongue with the napkin
yeah,
because the pie is, as he said earlier, sorted.
sordid. And classic gay moment of you have a crush and then you realize who the crush is. I think it's a classic anyone who loves men because they suck so often. Sometimes they're like, oh, they're good looking, and then oh, they open their mouth. They open their mouth a few more times, and you're like,
You're
ah.
like, oh, like I can't keep forgiving this.
Yeah. Um, and so he is like, Eliza, I'm in. Fucking I'm
Let's
in.
do it.
Yeah, we're alone. You're right. Like, who do I have but you? And like, you care about this. Because in that conversation, when she sees the monster's gonna be hurt, she's like, we have to save it. And this, he's like trying to ignore her, and she's like grabbing onto him. Like, no, listen to me. Listen to me. He's like, I'm
And she
listening.
hits him too
Yeah.
at one point
He's like,
too.
you've never hit me. And so
That's how serious she is.
because he's like, when he sees me, he doesn't see me as lacking. He doesn't see what I lack. He sees me. He
He
understands
sees,
me.
yeah, he sees me as like, I don't have deficiencies, that this is just me.
Yeah.
And also what's really interesting about that conversation is when she was signing originally, he points out, he's like, well, you just called it an it. And she's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 you're not listening to me. Like, say exactly what I'm signing,
Yeah.
because that gives the impression that like he misinterpreted what she
Yeah.
had signed
Sh-
purposefully.
She's saying
Um,
him.
yes, yeah, she's referring to him as, personhood. Um, yeah,
Yeah. And she's saying like we're he's like, oh, he's not human. And she's like, we're not human if we let this happen.
yep.
Um, so now it's time for the heist. So fun, so
Love a
stressful.
heist.
Because the doctor sees that she's helping getting the creature out.
And he's like, I will help you.
Yeah, the cameras have been moved, and so he
Oh yeah, the
uses
Russians, they gave him this little device.
that'll turn off
Um,
all the technology.
yeah, it basically like it if you put it next to a fuse box, it burns the fuse and then the
Yeah.
lights go out for a couple minutes until the generators kick on.
And so Giles had rebranded his truck as a laundry truck. He like made a fake identification. He put 54 and she's like, "Girl," so he puts
Yeah.
57. Uh and she is able to get the creature out with the help of the doctor because he sees her escape and he's like, "All right, I don't who do you work for?" She's like, "What?" And he's like, "Okay, here's what you need. Like, do this, do that." He's like, "You're not trying to kill it."
Yeah, he basically gives her the information she needs to keep him alive until she's going to release him because he's like, here's this goo we put in his water and
Yeah,
make sure the salt of the water is between this percentage and that percentage. He has to have salt water. Um, and he also like helps her escort uh the amphibian man.
yeah. And Zelda sees and is like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah.
then she's like, "Please." And eventually Zelda's like, "Fine," right? She's like,
Yeah.
"I'm always down." And so they get him loaded up in the car because the power goes out because Giles was gonna get shot by the guard who's like, "Get out of the car." They realize the identification is false. The There's no scheduled laundry delivery,
Yeah,
but
Strickland's like calling the
the
gate
guard
check with that
posts.
the
Yeah.
guard, and the guard's taking his time getting over there, and he notices that, if he hadn't changed his age from 51 to 57, the ink probably would have been dry enough, and that wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah.
But, you know,
And he gets that guard gets KO'd by the doctor with the syringe that was supposed to be for the creature.
yeah,
And they load up the creature and get out of there. They with that not without destroying the Cadillac in the
good.
process. Yeah. And yeah, they're gone. They make it. He's all distracted. He's like, that creature's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the creature fully trusts Eliza, you know. So
Hmm.
they get back, they put him in the tub. They're
Yeah.
scared he's gonna
And he's
die.
he's still like can't breathe. And so she puts the goo in there and then she's like, "Oh my God, I need salt." And so she goes
Yeah.
and gets the salt. I actually out loud was like, "You need salt."
Yeah. But that whole scene, I was like
It's such
on
a good
edge.
heist.
Yeah, I was
Such a good
like,
heist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, very Dimension 20. They do have some of the best heists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
good.
and so they get the creature. He's in the house. Um,
He's calling from inside the
he's
house.
calling from inside the house. Strickland's bringing out. He's interviewing everyone. He's like, "Why am I interviewing the piss cleaners?" And she starts signing to him after being very smug. "Fuck you." And
Yeah.
so I was like, "She's saying thank you." Because like, what is she
Yeah.
saying? And she's just like, "You don't know what I'm
I think
saying."
she does eventually start signing thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, because he's like, trying to interview them to be like, did you see anything trivial?
Yeah.
Do you know what trivial means? Um, and yeah, he's like, why am I asking the help?
Yeah.
And which is crazy because if you know anything about quote unquote the help, they know everything.
Yeah.
Okay. They they're they're gonna know. So it's like they are your prime source of information, regardless of the fact that they are your culprits, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that he completely discredits them as a potential good source of information, on top of the fact that like those people, the people who did the thing that you're trying to get back,
Do you
they
think an
did it and they're
elite
right under your
strike
nose. You
force did?
fucking asshole, you deserve this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because,
it's like you get those moments where you're like, yeah, fuck you. You start
yeah.
wanting to sign fuck you. You want to learn sign
Yeah.
language just to do it too. But yeah, it's so fierce that she does that. She just stands there, looks at him and keeps saying it. He's like, "Oh, you're saying something to me."
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And, Giles is drawing him, falls asleep. He gets out. He eats the cat's head.
Pandora.
He eats Pandora. Wow. The cat hatred, I said it's just so prevalent. You can't escape it, you know. And
I
fuck that.
just, yeah, it, and I don't remember this part. Maybe it's because I blocked it out. I was like, oh, that's right. He's nice with the cats. That happens later. That he is nice with the cats. But the first thing that happens is like obviously this cat is like, what the fuck are you? And like hisses, and then he hisses, and then it goes down. And
He cuts Giles as well as he runs past him.
yeah, but also you see the cat's body, and I'm like, I did not remember this. And I
Yeah.
literally almost started crying. I had to go and pet the animals. So
Yeah. It is triggering and unnecessary and makes you be like, were you not feeding him enough? Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and also kind of detracts from the who is the monster, who is the man whole kind of fucking thing.
yeah. And then they forgive it pretty easily where he's just like, oh, I know he's a wild creature. We can't expect anything
Yeah. You know
more,
who's a
which is like
wild creature and would never do that? The unicorn in The Last Unicorn.
true,
She didn't eat that pirate cat, did she?
true.
Uh yeah, Aslan's not a tame lion, but it's not like he ate the cat's head. He just ate the
The
witch.
witch. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Who is a fascist, so at a certain point, you're gonna eat somebody.
Yeah, we don't know that that cat was fascist, okay?
Yeah. Very
So,
progressive cat. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so like so Giles and Eliza they live above a movie theater, and so like
Yeah.
he doesn't get far, which is good. He basically gets drawn in because he also seems to like movies.
Yeah.
And so like he gets drawn into whatever Bible
Yeah, it was a
movie.
Bible movie followed by a comedy, and so the theater guy's like, no one's coming.
Yeah, it was the story of Ruth, I think. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not a happy one.
Yeah, the story, the movie theater is struggling, the Orpheum.
Yeah.
And so later, basically the next late, she fills the room with water. Well, first they have sex once.
First, yeah, so first, she gets him back in the tub and he like kind of like touches her because he notices
Hmm.
her scars. And she's like, nope, nope, we're not doing
Hmm.
this. She's getting ready to go to bed. And then she's like, you know what? No, I am gonna fuck that fish man. And she
Yeah.
goes in there, takes off her clothes. She gets in the tub, closes the curtain because modesty.
Yeah.
And
But
they
she
have sex
does sign to Zelda where his penis is.
where it worked. Yep.
Yeah.
And Zelda goes, can't trust a man, even if he looks flat down there.
Hmm.
Truer words have never been spoken.
Never been spoken. Yeah. And so, but then next time she's like, what
But
if I
Zelda's
just,
also like, go girl.
yeah, she's like, you know what?
Good for you.
Good for you.
I'm glad that you're happy. You've got this cute little ribbon in your hair. You're wearing red shoes today.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We see the joy.
And
Zelda's a girl's girl.
Zelda's a girl for sure, for sure, for sure. And so
Because
she,
if my friend had told me they were fucking a fish man, I might have some reservations at first. So,
yeah,
just some general concerns. But Zelda's like, all right.
yeah, who knows what STIs you're about to uncover. Yeah, so then she fills the room with water so they can have sex totally floating in water. Very fantastical.
Yeah.
And but the
Well,
water does leak to the theater, and the owner is mad
yes.
because he loses four paying customers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably his only four for the week,
that's what he
but
is. Yeah. But Jaws is like, okay, I'll fill that. I'll fix the pipe. I'll just the pipe.
and it's more than a pipe.
It's more than a
It's
pipe.
he opens the door, the water spills out, and they're just embracing
And she's
Eliza,
like,
the monster. She's like,
hmm.
and he's like, okay, you guys have your moment. And the Giles like draws that like
Yeah,
portrait. It's really pretty.
yeah. He's very inspired.
Also, he's glowing.
Yeah, he glows
He's literally
blue.
glowing.
Yeah, very. again, very Bionicle Gakoro. Yeah. And he heals the head. He like redoes the hair on Gao's head. He does like a head
Yeah.
healing. He's giving turkey
He
and
also heals the scratch
the
that he made on
scratch.
Giles's arm.
Yeah. And then
And of
he's
course,
nice with the
Giles is
cats.
like,
And he's like, no playing with the kitties anymore.
yep, no more playing with kitties. But yeah, no, and he's like, holy shit, I've got hair again.
Yeah.
So
So they're like they're loving it. They're loving this time. The rain's pouring down. Hilary Duff is singing.
the
And
rain fall down.
and so they're like, but she wrote on the calendar, which I'm like, don't write it down, that they're gonna
Yeah.
take him to the docks on the 10th. That day comes. The Russian guy is getting, he gave them his phone number and some extra stuff. But he's getting extracted. But he doesn't fully trust his Russian friends because they're like, "What did you do with the body?" They're like, "Oh, I
He's
got rid
like,
of it."
yeah, they come to his house
Yeah,
and the one Russian guy has a gun. And he's like, oh, I did an autopsy, but nothing was learned. You know what Lenin always says, nothing
you
great
can't.
about yesterday's fish, something like
Yeah,
that.
they're like,
And they're
Lenin
like,
said
ah,
that.
ha, 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 ha. And then he's like, yeah, I'm definitely not getting properly extracted, that's for sure. So he kind of like, I think he kind of accepts it by the time he
Yeah.
gets there. And he also knows that Strickland and his lackey are watching him.
So Strickland is meanwhile taking all these pills. His fingers are black and oozing and dying, and
They didn't take. The
they didn't
fingers no
take.
longer wanted to be part of that garbage man.
Yeah. Uh, but Eliza has to say goodbye. She has this beautiful musical flashback where she sings. Uh, and she's saying everything that she can say, and he's saying egg. Uh, but she's like, I'm gonna miss you. I love you so much. She feels so much. And so she's heartbroken that she has to separate from this creature. Uh, he's flaking away though, so he's really got to get to the sea. Zelda's helping. She's like, I'm gonna call the doctor. He's not answering. Because he's getting extracted. Uh,
AKA shot
shot.
by the
So
Russians.
yeah, and then Strickland shoots the Russians and is like, tell me the names and ranks of the strike team." He's like torturing him, and he's like, "They're not a
There's
strike
no
team.
strike team, bitch.
They clean." And he's like, but yeah, they're taking him to the docks. But he goes to Zelda's house. And it's like, "Tell me, Delilah," because Samson tore down that temple and crushed everybody. And she's like, she's not, I was like, oh no, what's he gonna do? And then Brewster, her no good for nothing husband, doesn't talk and doesn't help, says, yeah, I heard her on the phone with her friend. They
It
took
was that
it.
mute girl.
Yeah, it was that mute
Hmm.
girl. And she's like, you don't talk for years and you got so much to say.
Yep. And so she warns Eliza, and they're like, okay, we gotta go now.
Yeah. So they're saying goodbye, and he's like, you're coming with me. I've seen Splash. And she's like, no, I have to stay. Um, But Strickland shows up, knock he fatal mistake of just punches Giles,
Yeah.
and then he shoots the creature and Eliza. They're dying in the rain, and but then he's like, "Yes, I did it," and then Giles wallops him with like a iron, like something that was lying around on the dock, just wallops him.
Right in the
Uh,
face.
and the creature holds onto Eliza and is able to heal with his magic water powers in the rain. And
Yeah.
he kills Strickland and takes Eliza with him to the sea. And he kisses her, turning her into a sea creature. Her scars become gills,
Hmm.
and they can live underwater together. And Jaws is like, are they happy? Are they happily ever after? Most likely,
He's
you
like, did they
know?
stay in love forever? I hope so. I'd like
Yeah.
to think that.
And what do I think about water? And he does a little poem. Or when I think about Eliza, I
And
think of
he
this little
starts
poem.
singing Ed Sheeran's Shape of You.
Shape of You. And Zelda reunites with Giles on the edge as they say goodbye to Eliza. And yeah, so that's The Shape of Water, baby.
This is a beautiful movie, I think. I
Yeah,
think I think it does have a lot of flaws with, the on the nose stuff with Strickland and the fact that, yeah, I agree, he does take up too much time, screen
yeah.
time. Um,
I would even argue that you could Giles might even take up too much.
yeah, I think a lot of this um like the stuff with Giles is like exploring like queerness in
Yeah,
general because like that's also like this love story is queer
queer.
coded too,
Yeah,
queer coded too. So like I think that like the movie wanted to do a lot of different things. I think ultimately it is successful, but I do think that like I do want more of their love story, but their
yeah,
love story is so short in the time frame of the movie. Like they only
yeah,
have a couple days, like maybe a week this
yeah,
movie goes by. Um, but a lot of their love story is kind of, especially when it's in the lab, is just like montage,
yeah,
which I think which I think makes sense because she only has a couple minutes to be in there because she's only supposed to be there to clean.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, I think it's like this is a good movie, beautiful score, beautiful visuals. Like I was very invested. I think because they were so there's sometimes too much boy energy. I'm gonna say it. Whereas like there's so much like we gotta keep the stakes, we gotta keep it, that it doesn't give us that moment to feel the love because we're so scared about the people coming to stop it that like we don't get to really celebrate those moments, or at least me as a viewer. I
Right.
didn't feel that. And I felt like the Oscar bait aspect of like we're gonna explore each character so deeply. Not quite Zelda, but
And you also have two fantastic character actors,
yeah.
Richard Jenkins and Michael Shannon.
Yeah. And so
So giving them that screen time makes sense from like you said, the Oscars bait
yeah, and it's
perspective.
not like, oh wow, these scenes are garbo. Like they're very well done.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I would have liked a little bit more of that love story. And I know it is supposed to be a whirlwind and it's like nonverbal, but I think I'm like, there's so many cool things to do with that. And maybe they were cut for time. I don't know, but I wanted to be able to feel the joy of the love for it to be a romance, to feel have those more moments of that joy. And so then the tragedy can feel deeper and then the hope at
Mhm.
the end. Now, again, still a good movie. Like it's like
Yeah.
these are like, yes, this is how I would change it, or these are things I noticed, but still like
I
obviously,
think perhaps because it's your first viewing,
yeah,
because I already knew the end, and so maybe I just didn't feel those moments of like the stakes and like
yeah,
the energy of the stuff that's not the love, like stuff
yeah,
that's threatening the love story as much. Because you're saying that, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because I already knew what was going to happen. You
yeah,
didn't know exactly what was going to happen.
yeah,
And I pretty much remember the basically once Strickland shows up, or I guess like once he starts like flaking, that whole
yeah.
sequence, I think I pretty much remembered because I think it's such a
It's
good
well done.
sequence.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I can definitely see that. And also, again, going to last week's episode, talking about how like you're the target audience for most films with anything stressful,
yes.
because you feel those things and react to those things so earnestly. So
I
yeah,
definitely
I
shouted at my
wonder,
screen a couple times. Yeah,
yeah, I wonder how you would feel about it like on a
on the
second
second
viewing
viewing.
after like a year or so.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I agree. I think, and also last week we talked about like the sort of set dressing of racism
yeah,
and classism. You know, I think this movie maybe does a little bit more with it in the fact that
yeah.
like it's an actual period piece and we are talking about like progress for progress sake,
And
but not
otherness.
progressiveness,
Yeah,
otherness.
yeah.
But I do think that like maybe we lean too much on those issues because it's the 50s, because we want Strickland to very
Hmm.
much be a monster from our perspective, because in that time frame, he wouldn't have been considered a monster
Yeah.
except by the people he's othering.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would be, I think it's a little unfair to say the invitation does nothing with it because I think
Yes.
there is the level of like she's being invited into whiteness and does she take
Yeah.
that or not? I think,
Yeah.
yeah, there again, that movie is on a very different level than this one.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I still think that movie is good for what it is, and I think this movie is good for what it is. I just think it, yeah, I think the romance aspect
Well, I
was
think
lacking.
this is an actually good movie. I don't necessarily think The Invitation is a good
Yeah.
movie. Um,
I would,
yeah.
I'll say it. I
You're
think
like,
it
I'll
is
say
good.
it.
But I
But it
also,
was still my fantasy.
yeah, and even though I have critiques of this, I think this is a great movie.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it is like you see those industry elements, whether it's the energy of masculinity or the energy of the Oscars or like all these things pulling at it, but at the central, like
Yeah.
the artisticness of it and the story is so beautiful that it shines through those. But I
Hmm.
think there are many Oscar bait movies, if you think of like a Crash or something, where like all
Hmm.
those forces kind of
Uh-huh.
pull it in all those directions and it can't actually make an impact. Whereas this, even though we talked about, yeah, how big is its cultural impact, when you think of like monster romance movies, I think this will always be on that list. When you think of like the great monster romances.
And so also, I do want to mention that The Shape of Water, oh, sorry, this is the 60s. I thought it was going to be the late
Mhm.
50s, but I guess it was technically the early
It's like
60s.
1960,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Um, there's also a book.
But the book is
They
unrelated.
they
Or they
made
made a
like a
book
novel.
after.
Yeah. And so that was the thing that kept irking me because I'm like, okay, I could listen to the audiobook, but I need to see the movie for the podcast. So I kind of do want to go and like read the book now just to kind of see like the differences because I think Guillermo del Toro wrote it with someone.
Hmm.
I think that's how it was written. Um, but to kind of see that vision in prose, I think would actually be kind of interesting too. So just another plug for if you want more of this story.
Yeah. Because I think it's very
Um,
beautiful.
and our
Um,
protagonist, I mean, super easy to root for. She has
yes.
a very noble cause, not just love, but also saving
Yeah.
someone from being murdered, you know.
And she takes interest just out of her kindness, out of her,
And the
um,
mirror, the fact that she's
yeah.
like, we are the same,
Yeah.
him and I, you know.
Yeah, I think she's very easy to root for. I think I've talked about a bunch how like the romance could be stronger, but I was still like, girl, get it. Uh, and I think we talked a lot about the antagonist too. And like,
Yeah,
yep, obviously we hate him. He's a great antagonist. Girl, give me less. Give me
right.
less scenes, give me back to the girl I'm here for. Uh, so I guess, Hannah, was that your fantasy?
I definitely think this is my fantasy. I think that this is a great film. I highly recommend anyone who wants to watch it, or is like, I don't know, it's kind of freaky. It's just a good story in
Yeah.
general. So I recommend watching it. Um, you know, from like Eliza's perspective, I do fall in love with this creature that
Yeah.
like I get where she's coming from. And I think there is like a beauty to him. So like maybe potentially I could fall in love with a fish man. I guess that's a potential possibility for me in another life.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that like love a heist, you
Yes.
know, if I could be a part of a heist knowing that it would go well, I would be a part of that.
Yeah.
Um, but I just think that like they're this world that they have built between like some of these characters, like with Giles and Zelda, feels like a very warm,
Hmm.
loving environment that Eliza's in, and then
That she
she's leaving
creates.
that,
Yeah.
but she's coming into, having a partner,
Yeah.
a romantic partner in life. So yeah, I think all around my fantasy.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is a great movie. And I also, yeah, I'd love to do a heist. You know, I think if he ate my cat, I think we're
Right.
breaking up. I'll still help you.
Absolutely.
I'll help you get to the water, but I'm not coming with you.
Hmm.
How many more
But
cats are going to be eaten?
yeah.
When will
Well,
it
I think
end?
at this point, none, because he's like, oh, I
I'm in
shouldn't
the
eat
water.
cats.
Yeah.
Well, that too. Cats don't go in the water.
Yeah.
So that's also, super
Mhm.
easy to stay away from cats if you live underwater.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he's come to love cats now, or be at least
Mm.
interested, you know. Um, yeah, that's what I have to say about
Now,
that.
yeah, would I want to be a fish man?
Oh,
Because,
oh, she does. She turns into a fish
yeah,
person at the
but
end.
like, and also I think,
I say no because I don't like the ocean. But
yeah, that is kind of, ocean is kind of scary. Now, is he able to hide when he has a boner? No one knows because it's all hidden. Or when he has a boner, it comes out. That's a question I have because being
well, I
able
mean, isn't
to,
that what a boner is? It comes out a little
yeah, but there's
more,
times where you have a boner and you don't want anyone to know.
Well, I bet he could wear pants because also I don't think we really talked about his design at all.
Yeah,
He looks a lot like Abe Sapien from the Hellboy movies and
yeah,
comics, but specifically the movies, the way that it's also the same actor who
yes,
played
I
Abe
believe, yeah.
Sapien, Doug Jones. He does a lot of the creatures in Guillermo del
Hmm.
Toro movies because he's so fan fucking tastic. Um, but yeah, like he could wear pants like Abe Sapien does because I'm assuming they're potentially of the same type of species.
Yeah,
And Abe Sapien, if he's got the same situation going on downstairs that Mr. Fishman here does, he wears
where's
pants probably
pants?
for a reason.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean he has a cool design with like the fins and the gills and the spikes
It's
and humanoid.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the artistic work that went into his design and then the prosthetics
Yeah.
is fantastic. And also his performance, fantastic.
Getting that production design Oscar for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh yeah, so I guess it was our fantasy.
Hmm.
Hannah, next this is confirmed what we're doing next chronologically.
Yes, because we're at the last week of Supernatural Romance Month. So we are doing the Twilight Saga New Moon. And I listened to the audiobook again this year, saving Cullen from that responsibility.
Thank
I think I
you.
talked a little bit about it on a previous episode.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it actually made the cut, but that, I enjoyed the book for what it was trying to do, and also because it's sort of like a it's so bad it's good type thing. But yeah, so excited to talk about that one because that's where I actually get invested in the story of Twilight. And I'm like, well, now I have to watch the rest of the movies because I probably will end up watching the rest of the movies after we record. I'm also
Mhm.
tempted to start listening to the audiobooks too because I'm like, you know what? Get next year's audiobook out of the way.
Out of the way. Yeah, so we're taking a trip down to Forks, Washington.
Well, up
Up to
for
Forks,
both of us.
Washington.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reading a ton of different werewolf books. Very excited for that. And in the meantime, comment below with whether your furniture, what color your furniture is,
What color is your furniture? Yep.
and fish creature, hot or not.
Ooh,
Let us
yeah.
know.
Yeah, because I
Uh,
mean, this one like has like abs and
hmm,
he's got like these fin things happening. It's interesting,
yeah.
maybe I'm into it. Um, Love that, hot or not. But yeah, so if you are listening on iTunes or Spotify, please give us that 5-star review. Let people know what you love about our podcast. If it's talk about fucking fishmen, great. Put that in there. Um, if you are watching on YouTube, hi, hello, you can.
Smash that like button like she smashed that fish man.
Uh-huh, exactly. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and that notification bell so you get notified anytime we drop a new video episode. Again, next week, it's Twilight New Moon. Follow
Yeah.
us on Instagram, and TikTok is still around, so we're still on the TikTok at Not My Fantasy Pod. We might be getting a blue sky. I don't know.
Yeah,
Social media department executive hasn't decided
I haven't
yet.
decided. You can find me on Blue Sky, Cullen C, and on Instagram at Cullen Ever After.
And you can't find me anywhere.
Yeah, you can't find Hannah anywhere. And then sometimes I do post things about the pod.
Actually,
Uh,
I'm on Pinterest.
oh, okay.
You want to find me on Pinterest? Um, but I don't consider that social media. I'm not socializing with anyone there. Should, should we start a Pinterest for this podcast?
Started- like Shape of Water vibes for this week. Yeah.
Oh shit, that's a meme. That's such a meme. You have to make that meme. Okay,
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week for the finale, the grand
Oh,
finale of Supernatural Romance Month.
wow, went by so
Yeah,
fast.
I know.
And we
Uh,
just started February in real
yeah,
life.
yeah, we're recording this on February 2nd.
Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow, so we
Oh,
are
he
getting
did.
more winter.
More
He
winter.
always does. It's rigged,
Yeah. I didn't
but
say
whatever.
today's Candlemas, the last day of Christmas. King Arthur drew the sword from the stone today. It's
Ooh,
also that yesterday was Imbolc / St. Bridget's Day. It's a pagan holiday. My dad told me to leave a piece of clothing outside for blessings and protection. And I did.
nice. What
Yeah.
did you choose? Or
A
can you not
sock.
tell me like a wish? Nice, a sock.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see you there. Follow us on social media. And
We're
Hannah,
gonna
I'm gonna tell you
we're
about a
gonna
real life heist we did after this call.
Oh my God. We're about to phase like Jacob and the werewolves. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Dude, episodes without guests, so fucking weird.
So weird.